Well, forgive me for putting the restream tease at 7:45 because I thought the announcement would come a little bit later, but Tennessee hasn't been in this position before, so we all learned something. Amanda, what did we learn? Good evening.
Good evening. We've learned that Tennessee is number one in the nation in college football, that the playoff committee thinks that Tennessee is number one. We also learned that Ohio State is number two and Clemson is number three. Or no, Clemson's number four, Georgia's number three. So it's pretty insane.
I thought that there was a slight hint, and I actually thought this, or I think I said it on the show, did I, that I thought Tennessee would be number one? And I was, or did I may have been talking to my son. The day runs together, but I sensed, and he can vouch for me if I didn't say it on
No,
the show today.
you told me. It wasn't on the show, but you told me.
Okay. And the reason I thought so is twofold. One, I think it's a good story. You rattle the cages of Ohio State, you rattle the cages of Georgia, and Tennessee is a great story overall. So you milk that no matter what happens on Saturday. Even if Tennessee loses, you get great traction there. And the other reason that I thought Tennessee would be number one is the simple reason, not the orchestrated reason. I thought they should be number one. I mean, if you look at the body of work, I would argue that they have the best body of work to this point.
I agree with that. I think that they should be number one too. My only issue with this is that if you are Tennessee, you don't want to be number one. You don't want to, especially not right now before Georgia, for them to be like, oh, hey, guess what? Tennessee jumped you guys. Here's some ammo for this weekend. Like, you don't want that because you want to be the one that feels disrespected. You don't want to be the one sitting on top. And I think that Tennessee will be just fine against Georgia. I've said that, since the season started. I don't think Georgia's that good. But I also don't think you need to give them any more motivation. Like, this was just bad timing for Tennessee to be declared number one.
I 110% agree. I mean, I think you would be better off at 5. Now, that wasn't going to happen, but at least behind Georgia is basically what you're saying. I 110% agree.
Yes.
I think this team is mature enough where I don't think it will matter, but you always wonder. I mean, this is a made for TV event. This is like more like Survivor than it is college football on a Saturday. Okay. So they want to make it interesting. You're never going to see 1, 2, 3, 4 be the same for all of November. That's not going to happen. It's just not.
No.
And I get that. That you've been in marketing. You understand that. I understand that. But I do believe this team is mature enough where I'm going to share a story that maybe, I don't know. Can I share that where I'm going here?
No, but I'm here for it.
Okay. So I texted Cooper to line up our weekly interview on Sunday. And
now I know.
And I said, yeah, I wanted to see when the rankings came out. I wanted to kind of move him back a little bit. And turns out it didn't work. And we talked before the rankings came out. Turns out they came out during the rankings. First of all, give us your thoughts on what you think about Tennessee being number one in the nation on the message board. But I will say this, Cooper, and I sent you a screenshot. Cooper, 24 hours later, texted me and said, where did we end up? He didn't even know nor care that they were number 3 in the nation. That didn't even register with him. He was focused on that day's practice and whatever else he had going on. And I think that speaks to the mentality of this team. And I think they can cut out the outside noise, Amanda.
Oh, yeah. I agree with that. My issue isn't, I don't have an issue. I think Tennessee is the number one team in the nation as of November 1st, 2022. I don't think that it really even comes close with other teams, especially not Georgia, because Georgia, as we've talked about, has faltered on 3 different occasions, really 4, but the score does not show the 4th one. My thing is more of you don't want to poke the bear, and it doesn't matter how mature Tennessee is. Tennessee is going to be able to handle it no problem. They would be able to be fine if they were 1. They would be fine if they were 4. They don't really, honestly, I don't think it even goes into their heads. I don't know what Heupel's doing over there, but they're solely focused on playing as a team. My thing is, I don't think it even goes in. There are Georgia players watching this.
Yeah,
I
that's
guarantee it.
very fair.
And they're watching it going, oh, so they think that we're 3rd. They think that we're that far behind Tennessee. Well, that's
No, you're right. And I always look at it from a practice perspective. Your Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are your biggest practice days. So are they a little bit more amped tomorrow because they're not number 1? Probably. But if they weren't amped on Monday and Tuesday, it's probably too late because this is not an offense that you can take lightly. And I believe it's a Georgia team that Amanda believes they can flip the switch. And I've had people tell me with knowledge of within that program that the thinking is from the coaching staff, these guys think they can just flip the switch on and off. And maybe they can. Okay. We've seen teams that good, but I don't think they're that good. And if you continue to play like that, I think you stumble more times than not.
Yeah. And I think we've seen Georgia stumble. We've seen it happen. And I think that it's going to be, I think they're going to stumble again against Tennessee. But again, I don't any team that is highly, talented, like we know Georgia is talented. Any team that's talented, you don't need that extra motivation, or you don't want to give them that extra motivation and saying, "Oh, we went from 1 to 3. Like that's what you guys think of us. Let's go out and show them our best game." You don't need that right now. You don't need that right now.
Well, and we talked about, do they play for Vince Dooley? I think we kind of chuckled a little bit at that. Rest in peace. Yeah. But this is something that, yes, you definitely could see as motivation. I totally agree with you. It's quite possible that they could use this as motivation. It wouldn't shock me at all. What did you think of the rest of? Let's go down. I want to get back to Tennessee in just a second. I want to give some people a chance to get on board and get your thoughts. And go ahead and leave us a message on the message board if you'd like to. What do you think about being the number 1 team in the nation? What did you think about the rest of the top 6, 8, somewhere in there? Your thoughts?
So it was kind of, I thought it was very weird. I thought the way that they set it up, though, made a lot of sense because it does show you that they do think that there are 2 SEC teams that are good enough to be in the top 4. So that sets that up already. Now, that's the only conference that has 2 teams in the top 4. They very well could have done, had Tennessee and Georgia and Michigan and Ohio State if you wanted to go that route, but they didn't. So that tells you that they know that the 2 SEC teams are better than, 2 Big Ten or 2 ACC. I don't think any other conference is going to get 2 in there. And then they might leave out a conference if things play out the way that they should. I was really surprised at the fact that Alabama was number 6 and they were over TCU. That was a shocker for me that TCU was 7th, that they put them so far down because they are undefeated and they played really well. But they put TCU so far down and they put Clemson so high at number 4. That's what I didn't get.
Yeah, I will give them a little bit of credit. And I remember on a selection Sunday one time for the NCAA basketball tournament, they accidentally released the bracket before the show announced it. I will give them credit, the College Football Playoff Committee. I do think they keep that to themselves because the news delay by poor Heather Dinich, who covers this, is incredibly delayed. It's just now showing up on ESPN.com. I guess maybe they want you to watch the stream too, but watch this stream. Again, your thoughts on Tennessee being number 1 in the nation. So the Vols, number 1, the first football ranking, and then that'd be the first time in program's history. It's the first time since 98 or heading into the 99 season that they were number 1. Followed by number 2, Ohio State, number 3, Georgia, and number 4, Clemson. So they not only slided Georgia. See, this is where the whole college football playoff thing kind of bugs me because I think Georgia is better than Ohio State. But I think to put two SEC teams, that's when I believe it gets political, Amanda. Does that make sense?
So I think that I don't. Georgia might be better than Ohio State, but honestly, both of them are showing up pretty flat. And like I said, this past weekend, they played very similar games. And the fact that their defense bailed them out in a lot of ways, and against offenses that weren't exactly great. You had Penn State versus Ohio State, and it was a lot closer than what the score says it was, because at the end, Penn State made a lot of mistakes, turned the ball over. At the end in Georgia, Florida made a lot of mistakes and turned the ball over. And so there was quick scoring on Georgia and quick scoring for Ohio State. So very similar games. And I think that their past scores don't show how many problems they actually have.
Yeah.
Just my opinion.
Do me a favor, if you can, hit that like, subscribe, and share button, as again, Tennessee is number 1. Nathan says, is Georgia at 3 going to light a fire under them?
It's my fear.
My breakdown of that has always been, if you weren't listening at the beginning, it can make you practice a little bit harder on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday's a light day. Friday's a walkthrough. So do they go in a little bit more amped up? Does it get them amped up at the beginning of the game? Probably. Yes. That being said, Amanda, I think once it's kicked off, that stuff kind of goes by the wayside, to be real honest with you.
I mean, maybe it does, but maybe it doesn't. I think if you go into Georgia's locker room tomorrow morning, if you go into their locker room, the rankings will be posted everywhere. I guarantee it. If you go to Tennessee's locker room, the rankings aren't going to be posted anywhere, and they wouldn't be posted anywhere even if Tennessee was ranked at 4. Like, it's a different mindset. And I know that, you know, at Alabama, when stuff like that happened, they would post stuff everywhere. Like, you're disrespected, you're disrespected, you're disrespected. Coach Smart was under Nick Saban for so long. Kirby was under Nick Saban for so long that you know he picked up on stuff like that. Like, you know he's out there doing the same thing. So I guarantee you Georgia is going to get up more for this game because of what happened tonight than they would have before. They've been coasting, and I think this might be the shock that they needed to get up and play like they should play. But I still think Tennessee's going to be a better team. I think it might be just be closer.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's this is, and our friend John Pennington with the Sports Source just tweeted out, amazing. It is amazing. Calvin saying this lady makes more sense than any sportscaster going today. I think that's a shout out to Amanda. Nathan said, great job, guys, for the quick stream. Glad to do it. And he says GBO as well. I told my son today, and you saw this coming before I did. To Amanda's credit, we've said before that she went to Alabama and Tennessee. She's an Alabama fan. It doesn't matter. She said that Tennessee would beat Georgia. She thought that Tennessee would easily win 9 or more games. So that's what I love about her objectivity. But I'm still a little taken aback. I was talking to my son today, and I said we should watch this together. I think Tennessee's going to be number 1, and it feels like a dream that, you know, really just, I mean, to go from what they were, 40 players transferring just 16 months ago, or well, now 20 months ago. You're talking about McDonald's bags. You're talking about all of that of money. And now Tennessee is number 1 in the nation. Just unbelievable. I don't get caught speechless very often. I talk way too much, Amanda, but this is bizarro.
I mean, it feels like, honestly, that Jeremy Pruitt, the McDonald's bags, all of that stuff, all of the bad stuff is a lifetime away. Like, it looks like a completely different program, a completely different team. I mean, what Heupel's done at Tennessee is something that you cannot overlook. And a lot of people are going to be looking at Heupel. You know, they're going to, and you just prepare yourself for it because they're going to come after him. Well, do I think he'll leave? I have no idea. I don't know what he's thinking, any of that. But you have a coach that is a treasure. Like, he reminds me, and I've said this before, he reminds me of Nick Saban, of what Saban went to Alabama and did. Heupel's turned around and done it at Tennessee. They just have opposite, you know, coaching strategies, as in Saban's defensive, Heupel's offensive. but they both changed the game so much and in such a short amount of time. And that's, I mean, to be compared, Saban and Heupel to be compared to each other, I think is probably, both of them would be happy to be compared to the other, I believe.
Yeah, he strikes me a little bit more of a Spurrier type because the offensive side of it. We'll see where he lies, because if I pick two of the most successful coaches in my generation, it would be Saban and Spurrier. And on one side of the scale, Spurrier absolutely hated recruiting, and that's why he left to go to the NFL. And I did write a deep dive on that as far as Josh Heupel, would he consider advances from the NFL? Because I think they're going to be there. Tony Romo said that on Sunday during the Steelers and Eagles broadcast. So my prediction is he's at Tennessee for a number of years. Now, we don't know what's going to happen 5 years down the road. Maybe somebody catches up to this offense, but David said, Hooker said they got a chip on their shoulder. David said, you got to thank the coaches and the players that stayed and that gave the credit for believing. Amen to that. Amen to that. I mean, I have to be honest with you. And I look at this as a parent sometimes because my son is that age. I probably would have said, get the H out of Dodge. I'm just being really honest with you. If it was that bad, and now I would have suggested to my son, sit it out through the spring and let's see what this Josh Heupel guy's all about. But my initial reaction it's time to bolt. David, I mean, that's just my initial reaction. You go.
No, that's fine. And to your point, I wouldn't have blamed you. And I don't think a lot of people would either, given the track record Tennessee's had before Heupel got there, from Kiffin to Dooley to Butch to Pruitt. Like, I mean, you would say, okay, seems like another one. Like, let's just peace on out. I don't think people would blame you. I wouldn't blame you for that. But for the kids that did stick around, even when they could have transferred, even when, NIL money, all of that stuff is coming into play, the kids that did stick around and believed in their team and believed in their teammates and then believed and bought into this coach in such a short amount of time, those kids deserve all of this. I mean, and I hope it doesn't motivate Georgia to come and, smash, but I still think Tennessee's a better team.
No, I do too. And I think they have the maturity to handle this. So Calvin says Georgia thinks they can just show up and win. You can tell that by watching their games. It will cost them this game. Calvin, I said earlier, I don't know when you tuned in. I was told that by somebody that's very close to Georgia's coaching staff. They think that of their own players. Jay Smith said, I got Tennessee coming out with a victory over Georgia. David said, you can't blame these kids for thinking about their future. And some of the kids left. Yeah. Some of the kids did.
But did you, I think you said Jay or whatever his name was, did you call it in September? Because I did. I said Tennessee would beat Georgia. I said Georgia wasn't that good in September.
She did.
I did.
You did. Kudos.
Thank you. I'm kudosing myself.
Amanda. Yeah, kudosing yourself streaming. Yeah. Like, subscribe, and share. We greatly appreciate that. Josh Heupel is apparently going to talk on the college football playoff, and he is the master. And I mean, this is a compliment, the master of saying nothing. So expect nothing. He will go just like he does in his press conference, go through 10 minutes and say absolutely nothing.
That's good, though. I mean, I would either like that or I want Mike Leach talking about absolutely who knows what.
Yeah, Mr. Zip saying, am I seeing things? Are we number one in the poll? Yeah.
Yes, you are.
Absolutely unbelievable. The only way this could be better is if Josh Heupel had Spurrier's quip and smart aleck mouth. That's the only. I'm trying to think of one way it could be better.
Wouldn't be Josh Heupel, though.
That's true.
That's the thing about Josh Heupel is you don't see him coming. I mean, now everybody does, but you didn't see him coming because he was pretty soft spoken, and he was. I mean, at SEC Media Days when we saw him and asked questions and stuff, he's funny and he's he's almost jolly, but you don't see him as a threat. Like it's always like the funny guy. that is chatting up your wife and you don't see him as a threat, but there he goes.
There he goes.
Josh Heupel's kind of like that.
One other comment. I think Michigan should be above Clemson. I would be fine with that.
Agreed.
I don't think either team has played much of anybody yet. And when we talk about Clemson and Michigan, Daryl, no, you did miss something. Tennessee is number one in the college football playoff selection show. David said, I don't know this season turns out, but the players deserve everything they get. Totally agree. And you can certainly, just a shameless plug, Cooper Mace and Jacob Warren are on our YouTube channel each and every day, or each and every Sunday, I should say. So it's very interesting to see, and we'll have a reaction from Josh Heupel, who meets with the media. Well, he'll be on the SEC teleconference tomorrow, so we'll have a reaction from him, and then we'll have reaction. He's actually going to be on the show, so maybe they had all the coaches lined up to possibly be on, or maybe they just said, "Hey, Josh, nudge, nudge, it's going to be you." But
they knew he wouldn't leak it. I mean, he doesn't say anything else, so why would he say that?
he probably called him. He's like, "Ah, bleep." He said, "I don't want to be number one. Put me at 5."
Put me at 3. 3 would have been the spot, I think, where you would have felt disrespected, but still being considered. That would have been the perfect spot right before the Georgia game. Put Georgia at 1 and then put Tennessee at 3. And that would have been the sweet spot, I think.
All right, I'm old. I have to go to bed, and you have things to do, I'm sure. But I guess we'll make this a tradition on Tuesday nights, because I don't think, even if the Vols lose to Georgia, they're going to fall that far out of the race, and I think they could still make the college football playoff if they lose to the Bulldogs, which I'm on board with you. I don't think it's going to happen, and I can't believe we're here, and I'm saying that. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. Jason closes it with Go Vols. I can't add anything to it better than that. I mean, this is just absolutely astounding. Have a fantastic evening, everyone. We will talk to you at 8:30 tomorrow morning, as we do each and every weekday. It'll be Amanda LaFratta, me, Dave Hooker, and Ron Slay every Wednesday.
Boom, boom.
We'll find out what the boom, boom, boom really means.
Yeah, I don't know.
And lastly, Calvin said, do you see the point spread coming down after the ranking? It's already come down 4 points.
It should have. It was 11, I think, at the beginning of the week, something like that.
First thought it was 12.5, and I've heard
yes.
8.5.
And it's it should have come down. It shouldn't have been that high to begin with. It should be, if I were Vegas, I'd set it at even, but that's just me.
This is wild. Have a fantastic. I just want to throw this out there. The first year that I covered Tennessee as a credentialed press person was 1998. So after a little break, I haven't mentioned that to this point, Amanda. I haven't. I'm just saying. Yes. It's not me. It's not, but it may be a weird omen. It's not me. I'm not doing anything. Have a fantastic evening, everyone, or morning whenever you're watching this. She's Amanda LaFratta. I'm Dave Hooker. The Vols are number one, and this has